Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
Welcome in, friends, to another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. It is a beautiful Saturday, August 15, 2020, here in the city of Chicago. And the Bulls are looking for a new head coach as Arturas Karnisovas, the new man in charge in Chicago, has fired Jim Boylen from his head coaching duties. But before we get into all that, some housekeeping notes. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Mike M Media. I'm on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media. The show has a Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Find us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. There you can become a producer and get our interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities. Patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. You can support us at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. And please like, rate, review, and share wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. So let's get right into it, friends. In case you missed it, I actually dropped a video on YouTube and on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves when the news broke on the Dan Patrick Show of all places, thanks to Adrian Wojnarowski, that the Chicago Bulls fired their head coach, Jim Boylen. And I had, my initial reactions. I was still a little upset about why it took them so long. But at the end of it, there was some perspective that needed to be put into this whole scenario, especially on my part. To be fair to this front office, to Karnisovas, to Eversley, this was the end of the season. The bubble just ended. And I mentioned it a little bit in the video that might have something to do with it, but it sounds like that kind of is exactly what the story was. Now, the next thing I had was how much did the Reinsdorfs have to do with them delaying that decision? And it seems like they pretty much gave free rein to the new front office. But we'll go ahead and I'm going to read you just some tweets from the initial storm that was, and this is from Casey Johnson, and you guys know how much I think Casey Johnson is the best guy when it comes to covering the Chicago Bulls, and you can follow him at KCJ Hoop. Quote, on conference call, Arturas Karnisovas said that the human element of these decisions are never easy, praised Boylen's care and commitment, said interview process will begin immediately. He continues on, quote, Karnisovas, I took my time for a reason. I had no timeline. This was the right time to make this change. Karnisovas said it was strictly a basketball decision to fire Boylen. Karnisovas said the timing was right today because it's the first official day of the offseason and the draft lottery and draft process are on tap. Set emphasis on player development and relationship with players, and good communicator will drive replacement search. Karnisovas said ownership gave him autonomy to make the decision based on basketball, and it wasn't based on financial aspects. And then Casey continues to tweet out, Karnisovas, quote, the signal is that we're changing things. It signals that we're looking forward to what comes next. We felt this program needed change, and needed change now. I can't wait to find the next coach for the group. Karnisovas continues, I respectfully acknowledge the hard work and dedication of all of those in this organization who have come before me. But I'm dedicated and committed to cultivating a culture that creates winning and its sights set on championships. And Casey Johnson continues on, Karnisovas didn't rule out league and PA agreeing to group workouts being allowed like OTAs in the NFL. Said Bulls Gym is busy with individual workouts. I keep hearing September as likely dates for these voluntary workouts. So there we have it. You can read on through. Casey Johnson does amazing stuff for NBC Sports Chicago. Check him out again at KCJ Hoop. What do we take from all that? The initial thought that I had when I was dropping that video, and there's a lot of momentum building in the Bulls fan community and heck in the NBA community that wants to see the Chicago Bulls get back into that elite status. What The Last Dance and Michael Jordan did this past summer, especially during this pandemic where everybody was at home watching it every Sunday, it has put pressure on this ownership to make this franchise one of the tentpoles of the NBA. And it sounds like Karnisovas was saying to the media that the front office has really given him the ball to run with this. Now, over the last few years, Michael Reinsdorf, the son of Jerry Reinsdorf, has been much more hands-on when it comes to Bulls operations. And when we had John Paxson and Gar Forman, they were obviously just another extension of ownership. It seems like this new front office, while always the decision makers are going to be the owners, it seems like they're going to allow this front office to build their own resumes. And David Kaplan even mentioned it on Friday on his program that say what you will about Jerry Reinsdorf, but he has always been the kind of guy that lets a general manager make their decisions. He even quoted saying that Jerry Reinsdorf said, "Do you think I wanted to let Hawk Harrelson get rid of Tony La Russa?" It's like, I didn't, but I had to let my GM make those decisions and then judge him based on those. So perhaps we've been wrong. I doubt it. I do think this front office has had their hands all over this. The real thing is, who do you go after? This new group from AK and Eversley keep emphasizing that this is going to be a player culture. It's going to be player friendly, player development. And there's a bunch of different guys that are on this list from Adrian Griffin, although at this point it sounds like he's going to have a tough time with the domestic disputes allegation that's going on. So I don't know who's going to be the front runner. And then what happens if a team gets bounced like Philadelphia? I keep going with Brett Brown. Maybe it's the assistant to Brett Brown. But they're going to have to find somebody. It is so important that this works out. Because in 2021, when you have guys like Giannis and LeBron and AD and Kawhi and Bradley Beal and just a bunch of different free agents out there, you have to make this a destination spot. And if you don't, that's another coach that's going to be on the books that you're going to maybe fire. And you have to think about this too. This coach has to work out for one reason. Usually in the NBA, one of the things you can offer a superstar is you get to pick your new head coach. You get to pick who you play for. That's not going to be the case for a free agent that potentially comes to the Chicago Bulls because they're going to pick their coach right now. So it better be somebody that hits. It's like if it doesn't, that clock is just ticking even faster for this new front office. That was my initial thought of why it took him so long to fire Boylen. So once you do, and once you get your guy in there, that's it. You're on the clock. It is your name on this guy. You're claiming this dude. You're vouching for him. So we go from what we heard from Casey Johnson and the initial fallout of Jim Boylen being fired and my initial thoughts and kind of my thoughts when I got a chance to gather them and what I'm thinking about in the future. But now we get to the point where we start to see the real insights of what was going on with Jim Boylen, the other side of this. And this comes to us from Joe Cowley. And you guys need to check this out. He just tweeted out at J Cowley Hoops. Joe Cowley, another really great source for Chicago Bulls info. And it is from the Chicago Sun-Times, the roller coaster ride that led to Jim Boylen's firing by the Bulls. Extreme confidence or flat out delusions of grandeur? It's tough to figure out which path Jim Boylen was walking before Friday's news that the Bulls were parting ways with the head coach after just 2 seasons. Maybe it was both, because while everything around him screamed that he would in no way see the final 2 years of the 3-year contract extension he was given in the 2019 offseason, a source told the Sun-Times that even as late as this week, Boylen remained confident that he would have whistle in mouth at the Advocate Center when the 2020-2021 season began. The reasoning? Boylen was under the belief that in no way did the new regime of Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, Arturas Karnisovas, and General Manager Mark Eversley want to remove him as a target, starting the clock on their job security. The problem was that not everyone thinks like Boylen. That was a mentality he likely learned under the Gar Forman regime, Survival 101. However, Karnisovas made it clear that he's not into surviving. He's into winning. Quote, ultimately, my responsibility is to move this organization on a trajectory of success. And from the beginning, this has involved making changes. Karnisovas said after Boylen firing was announced, I'm dedicated and committed to cultivating a culture that breeds winning and has its sights set on championships. That definitely wasn't the culture going on before Friday, at least from what Bulls players were saying. The latest kidney shot to Boylen came last week as the usually mid-mannered Tomas Satoransky had some interesting comments on a Czech radio show when asked about his then head coach. Quote, "How would I say it diplomatically?" Satoransky said, "It definitely wasn't an easy season for the coach because this was his first season as head coach in the NBA. And nobody was doing well, so there was huge pressure on him." And the quote continues, and also just the article continues. I don't want to read this whole thing, and he definitely deserves the clicks and the retweets and whatnot. Check it out at Joe Cowley, Chicago Sun-Times. But it is good to note. That is super important because that was one of the biggest complaints about this old Chicago Bulls management team, was that it was all about survival, doing just enough to get enough fans in the seats, to get enough primetime games, to sell enough tickets, concessions, Bulls jerseys, commercials, but not have to spend all the money, not have to really compete. You kind of just sit back and say, it's LeBron's era, it's Steph's era. It was lazy for a long time with this Bulls organization. They got by mediocrity and the legacy of Jordan and those 90s Bulls. But that same legacy is coming back to bite them in the butt. And it's good to know that we were all, it seems like our assumptions of that front office and Jim Boylen were correct. Makes all the sense in the world where these players smelt it. They saw right through it. And it is a reason why this Chicago Bulls team for the longest time was despised by so many superstars. You got this guy arguing with chefs at the Advocate Center, putting in work punch clocks. This is the pros. He could be a great dude behind the scenes, but there is no way that that could have stayed that way. But I think it'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks who the leading candidates end up being, if anybody gets fired. I know one of the real kind of dark horses in this is Becky Hammon from San Antonio. She's one of the proteges of Greg Popovich, and everybody's been wondering if she was going to take the head coaching spot. But now Tim Duncan's there. Maybe Tim Duncan's her assistant. That'd be really interesting. So there's going to be a lot of names that you're going to see over the next few weeks of who these Bulls are going to hire. This is what I'm going to be paying attention to. What type of personality, what type of track record do they have? What kind of chemistry, what kind of relationships do they have built around the league? And where are they coming from? Because that's going to have a lot to do with who they try to bring in 2021. So I think it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be an interesting time. But let me know your thoughts, guys. I want to know, what did you think? How happy were you that Jim Boylen has been let go as the Bulls head coach? Who do you think they should bring in to lead this team? What do you think about the timing and the timeline of how we got here with Mark Eversley and Arturas Karnisovas? Do you like how Karnisovas responded and what he said to the media about waiting for the season to actually start? With that in mind, is it kind of a good thing that they did it as fast as they could while being respectable for a team that does have a bad track record with how they handle coaches? Let me know your thoughts. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram Mike Mercado Media, and you can follow the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. But that'll do it for us, guys, on this little special Saturday edition of Sports from the Couch. Jim Boylen fired as the head coach from the Chicago Bulls. Take care of each other. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the games. We'll see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.